welcome back. I'm going to jump into chapter 2 of Genesis as we continue our digging into the Bible. Here's how this begins. Love the heading here. The seventh day, God rests. Let me just pause for a second here. As families, do we rest very often? Do we find those holes in our schedule and we decide, hey, here's all the stuff that we haven't caught up on, and we're just going to plow through it, and we're just going to do. That's what our society encourages us to do, but here we're going to see a little bit of a different message. Chapter 2, starting at verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. Now, I love asking kids this question. Did God need to take a nap? Did he need to stop working? Was he so exhausted that he had to just cut out and be done with it? Well, no, God didn't have a need to stop working. But I think what's going on here is he is trying to set a pattern. He's trying to set a rhythm for his creation, because we need the rest, and whether it's resting one day a week or kind of every, some of the time, some professions, you have a sabbatical every 7 years, or you hope to have something like that, or just the idea that some of the time we need to rest. If you're in agriculture, you need to rest the ground on that you're continuing to kind of plant things in, because some of the time the ground needs to rest and recover from all that activity. And so God establishes this right from the beginning. So verse 3. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So you're seeing this. The blessing, he makes the day holy. We don't worship the day, but the day, and Jesus speaks to this when he is discussing this with the Pharisees in the Gospels, where he creates this not so that we have something to apply ourselves to, but something that helps to restore us, helps to give an intentional, let's hit the pause button, let's relax, as families. Let's spend time as family together and watch a movie, have pizza together, just relax. Don't do something crazy. Don't go running around all the time. And we try to fill our lives, and yet we need to recognize that as much as it's great to go and do, and you don't want to miss out on all sorts of opportunities to do stuff together, there's moments, and God builds the rhythm in here, there's moments when we need to pause. And he calls us together, and this is why we worship on a seventh day. The kind of the Sabbath is the day to call us back to worship and to spend time with God and to slow things down a bit, and not to rush, and not to get in and get out and well, I got to get done with church because I got this, and this going, but to intentionally structure your day in such a way that it's no, I don't have a ton of stuff to do. In fact, actually, maybe the biggest thing I do this afternoon is I'm going to take a nap. And that's the goal, that's my big goal, is I'm going to take a nap. I'm maybe going to have, something relaxed. I'm going to put a hammock outside. We're going to go relax, get at lawn chairs, just chill for a little bit. And just imagine putting that as a priority in your family's life. I know it's not a simple thing to do, because there's so many things, so many pressures, so much stuff pushing us. But I kind of want to challenge us to kind of say, what, God set this pattern for a reason. He knows you need restoration. He knows you need that pause. So try as best as you can to actually take advantage of that. Let's continue a little bit. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man to work the ground, and the mist was going up from the land and was watering the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. So this is kind of the interesting structure. So we've had the 7 days of creation, and then Moses kind of hops us back and takes us back to kind of another way of looking at a portion of the creation that took place on the sixth day. Because the interesting part is what we had previously, and all that, God said, and it was. God said, and it was. And here, God literally, sounds like he gets his hands dirty. Says, I'm going to form you differently, for the aardvark, and the armadillo, I'm just going to speak, and they're going to be, according to their kind. But here we have this, I'm going to get my hands dirty and I'm going to form you and I'm going to breathe life into your nostrils. So vivid, so fun. Continuing verse 8, and the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed, and out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So God creates this garden. He creates this perfect place for humanity to live. And then before we really know what's going on with them, he just mentions, oh yeah, we have the tree of life in there and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And both of these trees come back shortly in our next, as the story continues here. Verse 10, a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is the Pishon. It is the one that flowed around the whole of the land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Abdelium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flowed around the land of Cush. And in the name of the third river is the Tigris, which flows east of Assyria, and the fourth river is that of the Euphrates. So God is, we're getting kind of to mark out the boundaries and getting a sense, the lay of the land, very descriptive here. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden. He just put him anywhere. Here, I've created this for you. Now I'm going to place you here in it to work it and keep it, not just to be lazy in it, but you have a responsibility from the beginning. So the question kind of maybe comes up is, we'll get to in chapter 3, not yet, not today, but we'll get to chapter 3 and we'll talk about the fall into sin. And so the question might come up, was there work before sin? Here shows up the answer in chapter 2, verse 15, because man was placed in the garden. He was given something to do. He had work to do. He had to keep the garden. He was a gardener. He was tending things. He was keeping track of God's creation. That was the job from the beginning. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. We'll unpack that one as we get there when we get into the fall. Now, here's what gets interesting. Then the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. Now, out of the ground, the Lord God had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. So God presents all these creatures so that man can see all the things, all the possible companions, all the ways in which he can relationally connect. I mean, imagine he gets to select pets from all sorts. And we get all sorts of great companionship from pets. I had a dog as a kid that just sort of wandered in to the church. My mom was kind of working part-time, some of the time off and on as the church secretary, and this dog shows up. This is Stray, and it became our family dog. And I love that dog. It's a great dog. Dumb as a box of rocks, but it's a great dog. But here's the thing. Is a dog relationally the same as another person? Well, this is what man is being taught here by God. The man gave names to all the livestock and to the birds in the heavens and of every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh, and the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. So Adam recognizes, none of the rest of creation is created the same way. So remember what we were talking about before, God creating humanity, male and female. That was kind of the quick walkthrough of it. And here we're unpacking how that all came into being and how that happens. And so on this 6th day, in this point of creation, God is taking the time and he's helping Adam to recognize his need and then presents to him the solution for his need. I have created a woman, and here's Adam's response. Then the man said, this at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. There's nothing more close than someone who is a part of your flesh. And here's how that gets explained. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So literally, God takes and creates from the flesh of Adam, woman, who would be named Eve. And now throughout the centuries to come, God encourages man to identify and to marry a woman to become one flesh with, to become so bonded and relationally connected to. It's a bond beyond any other bond on this earth, only matched by our relationship and bond to God. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. There was nothing to be hidden physically, emotionally, relationally. They were completely open to one another. It's beautiful. That's the picture thus far. It's beautiful. Well, we'll get into chapter 3, and the beauty, unfortunately, starts to fade. But we'll unpack that next time. God bless.